Mother rejected my quilt gift for excluding her youngest son, the dog, putting it under her bed, straining our relationship. So, a little while ago, it was my mother's birthday. I like to sew, so I thought it would be a good idea to make her a quilt. I had the idea to make some of the squares family photos, so I got some family pictures printed out onto fabric, and added them in the quilt. It had me, my siblings, and my parents. When I gave the quilt to my mother, she seemed happy at first before she looked at all the photos. She looked disappointed, and when I questioned why, she said that she was upset that I didn't have any photos including the dog. Now, as a bit of a side note, I have always had a phobia of dogs, which people never really got about me. We do have a dog in the house, but I choose to not acknowledge it or be around it. My mother knows very well my fear of them, but she treats this dog like it's her own son. She cooks it meals every day, gets it food at McDonald's, gives it many presents during Christmas, and practically every framed photo in the house is of the dog rather than anyone else. Essentially, she treats it less like it is a dog, and more like it is a human child, even calling it her youngest son. Since I don't like the family dog, for reasons I won't dive into here, I chose to not incorporate it into the quilt, also since I don't have any photos of it on my phone anyways, and now, my mother seems to really dislike the gift. I asked her if she doesn't like the quilt, and she just sighed and said that it was cruel of me to not include her youngest in the quilt. I feel bad. Since I am moving away soon, I wanted to give her a nice handmade gift, since I've never done that before, but she seems so disappointed with it. I thought the photos I picked out were nice. Some were recent, but most of them were from many years ago, before they even got the dog. My dad is telling me that it is perfectly fine that I didn't include the dog, and that the quilt is still very nice, but my brother seems angry with me, saying that I can't just leave out family members in a family-themed quilt. It's been around a week since that happened, and my mom has never once used or even touched the quilt. I looked and found that she put it under her bed. I feel sad, but also guilty. I feel like a major jerk, since I just wanted to make her happy. My mother has also been a bit more distant with me as well, so I'm scared that our relationship will be affected by this. Update 1. I feel like I should clarify some things. Looking through the replies, I see most people saying that I am the People seem to think that I deliberately left out the dog to upset my mother, and that I should have been more mindful of her feelings since this is a gift for her. She's had the dog for around 6 years now, and has mentioned quite a few times that she values dog lives over human children's lives. She also mentioned that in the case of a house fire, she would save the dog first, then go back in to save her children. I've had this dog phobia since I was a kid, and it hasn't gotten better since the dog has been in the house. I'm not allowed to go to therapy either, so I was left with no resources to help me with this fear. It was especially bad since whenever I leave my room, my mother or brother would try to get the dog to chase and bark at me, since they think it's funny. They still do that to this day. But, back to the quilt situation, my mother has framed photos all around the house of her dog. She has maybe 2 photos of her human children, but around 12 photos of the dog. When making the quilt, yes, I did purposely exclude the dog. I did this partly because I felt that there was already enough photos of the dog in the house, and partly because I wanted to give her something to remind her of her human children. The vast majority of the photos I chose were ones taken when me and my siblings were young children, so before they even got the dog. And no, I hate that I have to even say this, I don't harm dogs or wish harm upon dogs like some of you seem to think. Shortly after I woke up this morning, I went to try and grab the quilt from under the bed in order to take some photos of it, but I couldn't find it. I asked my dad if he knew where it was, but he was just as clueless as me. We searched a lot of the house, but couldn't find it. I'll update again if I find out what happened to it. I went outside and checked the trash bin. I found the quilt there slightly hidden under some other trash. I took it out of the trash, and tried to clean it up the best I could. It's now hidden in my room. I'm not really sure what to do with it now. This post is honestly just to vent a little. So, since I was a freshman in high school, I knew that I wanted to live in Japan. So, when my senior year was over, I applied to a university in Yokohama. I honestly didn't believe that I would make it in, since it was a bit of a competitive thing, but surprisingly, I found out yesterday that I have been accepted. I am just 18 years old, and I'm moving to Japan. That is of course good news, but I'm having some issues. I currently live with my parents, and I live in the same exact house I lived in when I was born. I grow emotional attachments to things to the extreme, and the house I live in is one of the biggest examples. This was the place I grew up in. The place where I spent my toddler years, childhood, and teen years in. My room is the same room that used to have my crib inside it. For 18 years of my life, I have shaped my room into what I love. I spent years adding and reorganizing all the stuff in there to just how I like it. But now soon enough, posters will be taken down, furniture will be removed, and all the things that made my room mine will no longer be there. Everything will either come with me to Japan or go in storage. I'm not ready to say goodbye to the one space I could call mine for my whole life. There is also the sadness of leaving the state and city I live in. I live in a pretty plain state. Not much has changed here since I was just a kid. But I feel saddened and upset that I won't get to see the places I would always see, or go to the places where I would always go. I'm also a bit saddened that I'll have to give up on some of my hobbies. For example, I love sewing, but I don't think that's really a thing I can do while I live in a university dorm room. I wouldn't know how to get my sewing machine there, and it's not like sewing machines are very quiet anyways. And obviously, saying goodbye to my family and friends will be the most difficult. No one is coming with me to Japan. I went from living with my parents my entire life, never really having any sense of independence, to living alone in a completely different country. I love my family, and my parents are like my best friends. And now, I won't get to do the things that we always loved doing together anymore. I won't get to watch TV shows, go camping, and play games with my dad anymore. I also won't be able to go to the mall, go to various restaurants, or go to certain seasonal events with my mom anymore. We three also have the tradition of visiting another state to go to a certain Comic-Con together, and now we won't be able to do that anymore either. All of this would be hard even if I wasn't moving to Japan. I knew that one day I would have to move out of my parents' house, but even though I've had 18 years to prepare for it, I'm not ready. As for Japan, I know that I will meet so many amazing people, and make so many good memories, but right now, I just feel so emotional about leaving my current world behind. Yes, I do want this. I want this badly, but it's still hard. Sorry if any of this doesn't make sense. I just don't know how to process this. I have 3 months left before I move away. If you ever watch a movie that follows the classic structure of the hero's journey, you'll realize that it's really about you. We are all thrust into situations that are scary and we feel like we're not ready for. That's life. Change is the only constant. You're ready though. If you weren't ready, the opportunity would not have presented itself. It's hard, and that's okay. Allow yourself to feel your feelings, be sad, nervous, excited, angry, anxious, but do it anyway. Take a deep breath and keep moving forward. Ask for help along the way and don't keep your thoughts to yourself, but keep going. I was so scared to leave home, but I found my best friends at university. When I would go visit home, after a while it didn't feel the same. That's growing up, that's life. Separation is an important step of becoming a functional adult. If you need some harsh motivation, continue to read my comment. If not, feel free to leave it be. Think of your situation as an important step to move forward in life. The cozy usual life seems very pleasant, but in reality you'll grow out of it one day and it will start to suffocate you. And as time passes you won't be able to change your life so easily, leaving you in one place forever. So don't let fear now become regret later forever. It will be hard at first, but the only thing harder to deal with is lost opportunities. I'm sure you'll adapt. You're young, free, no children, mortgage, etc. Wish you well and an exciting future ahead. Good luck. I'm very bad when it comes to fashion, and I don't have a lot of casual things. I am moving to Yokohama in 2 months to attend a university, and I am looking for good casual clothes that are feminine and cute. I don't really know what people in Japan find fashionable. I just want stuff that is plain yet cute. Not like a sweater with Japanese writing on it or something. If it helps provide a mental picture, I am a rather short woman with long light brown hair and blue eyes, if that helps. I also love things like skirts. It would be a great help if someone could help come up with some good outfit ideas. Preferably, I would like to find these clothing items on Amazon. Long skirts are really popular in Tokyo area. You can just go to GU or Uniqlo and easily find lots of cute stuff. You can order online as well. Personally, I like going to second-hand shops like Madoff, but you'll obviously have to spend time looking for your size and finding what you like. If you're not on a budget, Beams is nice and a mix of classics and trends. Honestly, the amount of places to find cute clothes is kind of endless where you're at. Generally women tend to wear clothing that's more oversized and loose, but you're in a huge metro area, so really almost anything goes. And as a university student, people will probably be picking some kind of style like 90s raver, goth, boho, preppy, etc. and that's their look. I knew from a very young age that I wanted to study abroad. After applying to a university in Japan, and going through 2 separate screenings, I actually got accepted. I'm so excited, yet so nervous. This will be the first time I live away from my family. I'm gonna move out of my parents' home, and head to Japan to live in the dorms in just around 2 months. Do you speak Japanese? Only barely. The course I am taking is meant for English speakers, but Japanese language lessons will be taught as well. How long are you planning to stay there? Is it for the whole study program or just a semester? And what made you decide for Japan? I'll be staying there for the entire 4 years. In high school I took a Japanese language learning class, and I got to learn a lot about Japan and its culture. I also visited Japan at the end of my junior year as a school trip, and I quickly fell completely in love with it. Congrats, and I said a prayer for you in your new journey. You're doing things a lot of people don't have the courage to do at that age, including me. I'm sure it will be a bit lonely in the beginning, but remember this is all for a reason and for your abundance in life. I don't know you, but I am incredibly proud of you. My question. Are you nervous to learn Japanese on a serious level, and do you think it would be hard for you to adapt to the culture? Anything you're nervous about? I was thinking about learning the language, a bit of it myself, because my partner loves the culture, but it does look intimidating. Lol. Thank you so much. The Japanese language is definitely intimidating, and even after studying it for 4 years, I haven't really gotten the hang of it. But I think that being in Japan and being surrounded by people who speak Japanese will really help me get used to speaking the language. I am not sure exactly how I will adapt to the culture, but I'm not too worried about that. The most scary thing about this is the fact that I will be living alone in another country, but I am sure that I will quickly make friends at my new school. Congrats. I would be more interested in an AMA after a few months of university, but nevertheless, Japan is a country I visited last year and I would go back with my eyes closed. It was amazing. What was the admission process and how would you compare it with Harvard, or Cambridge? I'm not really sure what the admission process in places like Harvard or Cambridge is like, but for me, I had to fill out the application form, write a personal statement and an essay, and attend a live 30-minute Zoom interview with 5 people from the university. The school that I got into had around a 30% acceptance rate. No questions, just a congrats. Now on to second story. Brother tried to poison my mom's girlfriend and listed detailed plans to unalive us, but my mom still favors him. I, 25F, recently had a confrontation with my mom, 47F, after Christmas, and I'm a little unsure if I went too far in my response. Backstory: my mom divorced my stepfather 5 years ago and moved in with her partner, Jessica, 48F. I was in college at the time, but my little brother 17M also moved with my mother as my stepfather was found to be abusive and a danger to live with untreated military PTSD. The divorce, I think, amplified a lot of the issues that my brother had, and he began acting out in school: bad grades, problems with other kids. During this time it was found out that he had a pretty bad porn addiction and was chatting with grown men online and trying to steal credit cards and money to buy access to different chatting sites. We also found that he was cutting himself and stealing Jessica's medication like Xanax and promethazine. My mom, stepfather, and Jessica all came together to get him to help, enrolling him in therapy and taking him to different specialists and eventually taking him to a mental hospital. For about 3 months we were all on rotation visiting him, trying to provide him comfort while he was away. When he came back, things were fine for a while, but then the issues started coming in again. First, he was lying to his friends about us to the extent that his friends' parents were contacting our mom and stepdad about the alleged abuse. Then he lied to a doctor about it and actually called CPS. The case was dropped because he claimed abuse to the extent that he was being beaten every day and that he was unfed and without a place to sleep. Imagine the caseworker's face when she walked into his fully furnished room with a mini fridge, expensive gaming systems, brand name clothes and saw a fully stocked kitchen. It also didn't help that every person interviewed had no clue about the specified events he claimed to have happened. After the case was dropped, he upped the ante. He started trying to pit my mom and stepdad against each other. He stopped visiting him and claimed it was because my mom wouldn't let him, and then I would tell my mom that my stepdad was bad-mouthing her and not talking to my brother because he was gay. He even lied to my mom and said that our great-aunt and uncle, maternal, threatened to beat him for being gay. None of this was true, and he eventually confessed to it. Then he tried to cause division between mom and Jessica, but by then, the trust they had in him was gone, so nothing too bad happened. When that didn't work, he tried to poison Jessica by crushing pills into her food. The only reason it didn't work out was because she noticed that her food had bubbles in it, and it tasted soapy. She spit it out, and he eventually confesses. At this point, my mom was at her wit's end and began punishing him differently. She started taking away leisure and extracurricular activities. So, no more Xbox or Nintendo Switch, there were no more fun weekend trips, and he just went to school and back home. Things continued largely the same, with him doing something and then receiving some kind of punishment. He would be good for a little bit and get off punishment only to do something to be on punishment again. All things came to head last year when he came home from school and my mom got a phone call from his principal stating that a student had reported him for stalking and harassment. Apparently, he liked a boy who only wanted to be with him as an experiment. Then when they broke up, my brother couldn't handle and was always trying to find him school and hound his friend about getting in contact with the boy. The principal also said my brother had stolen a hoodie from the student. So my mom went through his room while he was with his dad, to find the hoodie. When looking for the hoodie, she found a notebook that had alarming drawings on the cover. She went through it and found detailed plans on how and when to unalive my mom, stepdad, Jessica, me, and the boy from school. This caused a lot of panic for us, as on top of mom finding that notebook, he ran away from his dad's house and was found the following day with a friend's parents. He was taken to the hospital to make sure he was okay, and it was determined that he would go to another mental facility. He stayed there for about a month and came out unrepentant and uncaring about all the stress his actions had caused. When he came out, the decision was made for him to stay with his dad primarily instead of our mom. He's been there since January 2024. The situation, now, since he's been with his dad, my mom has begun doing everything in her power to make him like her again. She vacillates between buying his love and always visiting him when she's off of work. Unfortunately, he seems to want nothing to do with mom, Jessica, and me. Christmas was a few days ago, and mom offered for him to visit for Christmas. And that turned into him visiting from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Christmas Day, which for me was a lot. My mom and Jessica seemed to enjoy having him around, but I couldn't help but feel anxious. Even our dog was cautious around him and actually stayed by me the entire day. I've felt on edge since the attempted poisoning incident with Jessica, and finding his list has only made me feel worse. At 17, he looks like a linebacker, and my mother just invited him to a house full of women with no way of defending themselves. He always has this look in his eye when he looked at me or mom and Jessica, but they don't seem to see it. When we talked about his visit, I just asked not to be left alone with him, and everyone agreed to it. Then, when he gets there, my mom and Jessica immediately start going upstairs for long periods, leaving me to cook downstairs with him in the living room. He was largely silent but kept smirking at me the entire time and eventually began to sit at the kitchen island, just watching me. We ate dinner, and he largely kept silent, just staring at me or glancing at Jessica. Then he just abruptly says, "I'm pansexual now, and I'm dating a girl now." They started talking to him about the change, but he just kept staring. I eventually just went back to my room upstairs with my dog and stayed until his dad came to get him. Yesterday, Mom, Jessica, and I talked about the visit, and they spent a good 20 minutes talking about how happy they were to see him and how he's grown. They realized that I was silent and asked my opinion. I said it was okay. They kept pressing until I said everything above. My mom got upset with me, saying that I needed to keep an open mind and that I was overreacting. She told me I needed to be a good big sister and extend the olive branch. I told her I would do no such thing and that I have every right to feel uneasy and anxious about having someone, in a place I consider safe, come in after talking and admitting to wanting to unalive me and even attempt that with Jessica. I can't forgive him for that even if nothing came about it because he never apologized and there hasn't been a change in behavior. I told her she was a fool not to see the signs and that while she may be happy to play family, she can't forget that her name was on the list. Since this conversation, my mom has been pretty distant and has actually been spending even more time with him. Jessica and I spoke, and she agreed with me but also said that I need to consider that he is also her child, and he needs his parents. Update 1. Valp, it's been 2 weeks since I left back to campus and it's come with some good and bad things. Thanks to many of the people who commented and DM'd me, I was able to come up with a game plan to 1. Talk with my mom and Jessica about my brother and 2. Find resources to permanently stay away if things go south. About a week and a half ago, I sat down with Mom and Jessica to fully explain everything I was feeling. I told her about how I felt that she still saw him as her baby and wasn't taking him seriously. And that now since he's decided to keep living with his dad, she wants to do everything she criticized his dad for doing. I told her that I thought her reaction to my brother put us in jeopardy and that her actions likely had much to do with her unresolved trauma with her own parents and her resentment for how her mother treated her in comparison to her brother. To be fair, she didn't reject the claim. She fully owned up to it. She said that over time she recognized the signs but didn't know how to stop because she didn't want to lose him forever. She said she felt that if she didn't do it this way, she would just end up becoming everything her mom said she would be as a parent. Jessica spoke after and apologized for her initial reaction to my feelings and for not taking my concerns seriously when I first brought them up. She said for her part, she just didn't see him as a threat and reasoned that if push came to shove, she would defend the household and herself by whatever means necessary if he attempted anything, so she just assumed I felt the same way. I thought with these new revelations, we would be on our way to finding a better way forward in managing a relationship with my brother. But then my mother put a stop to all of that. She doesn't want to change. She reasons that she's close to a breakthrough with him and she doesn't want to change things if she since feels that would hinder any progress. She asked me to just work on my emotions and promised that once he was cured we could go from there. At that, Jessica got angry with Mom on my behalf. She laid into my mom saying that she had 2 children, not just once, and it is incredibly selfish and inconsiderate to expect one child to make do just so she could maintain a failing relationship with her other child, who, at the end of the day, caused the consequences he's in now. She said, and I quote, "You keep babying that boy and then wonder why he has no respect for you." Which led to my mom crying and then leaving to go stay with, surprise, surprise, her ex-husband, my stepdad, and my brother. My mom left her disabled wife to go stay with her ex-husband and brother in the house they used to share. Jessica is understandably upset, as they have been having problems for a while now, and this might just be the nail in the coffin. Since she left she hasn't answered anyone's calls, neither has my brother or stepdad. I stayed with Jessica until the last day before classes. During that period I think Jessica and I bonded even further. We already got along pretty well, but I think for the first time, I understood what it was like to have someone have your back. Even while she was hurting, she kept checking in with me to make sure I was handling everything okay and that I had everything prepared for the semester. I made sure to spend as much time as possible since she doesn't have a lot of family around. We've even been playing on repeat a certain rapper playing at the Super Bowl this year. She's become a certified fan since the beef started. Lol. Before I left, she gave me some paperwork. She said that this was supposed to be a graduation present for me, but in light of recent events she doesn't know what will happen in the future and asked to adopt me. I can't begin to explain the wave of emotions that came over me. My own father didn't want me and my stepdad literally said I'd change my name when I get married anyway. What's the point? So the fact that this woman, even with all the shit that has happened over the last few years, she chose me. Needless to say, I said yes and we both bawled like babies and watched the Wiz back to back. Since I've been on campus my mom has only sent one message saying she needs time to think and needs space. I didn't respond, just muted her notification. While on campus, I found some organizations that work within my career field that also offer internships that come with stipends and full-time work contracts upon successful completion of the program. My case looks like it will be wrapping up soon, which will let me start working again so I can build back up my savings. Other than that, I guess I'm good. Definitely in a better headspace. Just ready to graduate.